It was one of those nights that didn't feel like it had a proper start. The kind that bleeds straight out of twilight into something darker, heavier. Sam Weaver clocked in at 11:54 p.m. at the Wilcox Tower, a 12-story corporate office in downtown Portland that hadn't seen daylight since March. Half the tenants had gone remote. The other half had gone broke. The air inside was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, but that kind that lets you hear your own breathing echo off the glass. Sam didn't mind the night shift. He'd worked worse. Graveyard hospital wards, a paper mill that ran 24 hours, even one of those soulless data centers where the hum of machines replaced any sense of time. But there was something about this place that unsettled him. Maybe it was the empty lobby with its flickering fluorescent light, or the rows of silent elevators, doors shut like sealed tombs. Still, he needed the work.
Divorce had left him with bills, alimony, and a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like someone else's life.
Divorce had left him with bills, alimony, and a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like someone else's life. Security gigs didn't pay much, but they came with solitude, something Sam both hated and depended on. It came at 12:37 a.m., just as Sam was making his first patrol on the upper floors. He was standing near the glass boardroom on the 8th floor, flashlight cutting through the dark, when his walkie-talkie crackled, not the usual static, but a faint, muffled voice. "You shouldn't be here." Sam froze. The sound was faint, warped, like an old cassette being chewed by the player. He held the radio up, frowned, and pressed the button. "Control? Repeat that? You're cutting out?" No answer, just static, followed by the sound of someone breathing, long and slow. Then silence. He stood there for a moment, the kind of silence that felt like pressure behind your eardrums. Then he laughed under his breath. Probably some kid on the shortwave frequency, or maybe interference from one of the maintenance guys across the street. That sort of thing happened. But when he checked the building's communication logs later, no other radios were active. At 1:15 a.m., Sam stopped by the security desk in the lobby. He poured himself coffee from the machine that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since Y2K. The old building manager. Carl had told him once Wilcox Towers got bones older than her plumbing.
He hadn't been joking.
He hadn't been joking. The place was built on top of what used to be a rail yard, later converted into office space after a fire in 1962. Nobody talked much about that fire, just whispers about workers trapped in the basement when the upper floors collapsed.
47 people, Carl said, never found all the bodies.
47 people, Carl said. Never found all the bodies. Sam didn't believe in ghosts, but he did believe in memory, and sometimes a place could remember things you wished it wouldn't. At 1:46 a.m., while making rounds near the 10th floor, Sam noticed something strange. The elevator panel at the end of the hall lit up. Ding. The doors opened. No one inside. He frowned, walked closer, and saw the floor indicator flicker. 10, 9, 8. Then stop. He waited, listened.
Only the hum of electricity and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights.
Only the hum of electricity and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Sam stepped inside the empty elevator. The metallic walls reflected his flashlight like ripples in a pond. He pressed the button for the lobby. The door hesitated, then slid shut with a soft hiss. Halfway down, the elevator stopped. Not between floors, not moving, just stopped. Pressed the door open button. Nothing. He pressed lobby.
Then, through the overhead speaker, that same warped voice returned.
Then, through the overhead speaker, that same warped voice returned. "You shouldn't be here." This time it was clearer, almost human. Male, maybe mid-40s. The voice sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. Sam's chest tightened. He hit the emergency switch, but the panel flickered and went black. For 15 seconds, he stood in the dark, heart pounding before the elevator started moving again. When the doors opened, it wasn't the lobby. It was the basement. And the thing was, he hadn't pressed the basement button. He stepped out, flashlight trembling in his hand. The air smelled of wet concrete and something metallic, old rust or maybe blood. The corridor stretched into the dark, lined with locked storage doors. The hum of generators echoed faintly. He told himself to take a quick look. Maybe the power relay caused the glitch. He'd log it, call Carl in the morning, forget it ever happened. But halfway down the hall, he saw a light under one of the doors. A warm, flickering orange glow. Sam crouched, peering through the crack. Inside, he saw what looked like a flickering lamp. No, a fire, burning in a small metal barrel. Around it, shadows moved, shifting shapes that looked like people, dozens of them, sitting or standing, watching the flames. And one of them turned its head toward him. "We never left," the voice said. The same one from the radio, the same tone that had followed him down here. Sam stumbled back. His boot hit a loose pipe, clattering against the floor. The sound echoed down the corridor like gunfire. He ran, didn't look back, slammed the elevator button until the doors opened. The second he stepped inside, the light in the basement went out. When he reached the lobby again, he locked the security gate behind him, breathing hard. His reflection in the glass looked pale, sweat slicking his forehead. For the first time in years, Sam considered quitting on the spot. But then again, he needed the job. Always did. He logged the incident in the security sheet like this: 1:58 a.m. system glitch. Unexplained elevator descent to basement. Visual anomaly. Then he poured another cup of coffee. He told himself he was imagining things. He told himself the night had played tricks before, but deep down, something had changed in the building. It was awake now. The coffee had gone cold. Sam sat behind the desk, staring at the reflection of the lobby in the glass doors. Everything looked ordinary again. The polished floor, the potted plant by the elevator, the security monitor flickering in grayscale. But something about the silence had changed. It was thicker now, like the air itself was waiting for him to speak first. He switched the radio channel, hoping to reach the janitorial crew on night rotation. Nothing but static. Then faintly, between the hiss, "Sam," he froze. He hadn't said his name on any open channel tonight. He turned the dial down. The voice stopped. Lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. Carl, the old building manager, had once told him, if the power ever dips more than once, don't stay on the lower floors. Go up. The building breathes through the vents.
Sam had laughed then. Everyone did. Carl was one of those guys who lived too long in one place and started thinking it had a personality.
Sam had laughed then. Everyone did. Carl was one of those guys who lived too long in one place and started thinking it had a personality. But now, with that flicker still replaying in his mind, Sam noticed it. A draft from the ceiling vent, faint and cold, carrying a sound that didn't belong to air. He leaned closer. The vent hummed, and under it, he heard whispers. "It's so dark down here. Can't find the way out, Sam."
He jerked back so fast he knocked over the coffee cup. Brown liquid bled across the logbook.
He jerked back so fast, he knocked over the coffee cup. Brown liquid bled across the logbook. He stood there for a moment, heart thudding, then forced himself to laugh. Jesus, Sam, you're hearing pipes, just pipes. But when he looked back at the security monitor, the camera feed for the basement hallway, there was movement.
A shape.
Small, human-sized. Crossing the corridor where he'd seen the fire earlier, at 2:42 a.m., Sam decided to make another round. Anything to prove to himself the building wasn't haunted by his nerves. He took the service stairs, flashlight steady, the old metal steps creaking like brittle bones under his boots. On the 6th floor, he heard footsteps, slow, dragging, not echoing from above or below, but beside him, through the drywall. He stopped, pressed his ear to the wall. The footsteps stopped too. Then came the sound of knuckles rapping on the other side. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. Sam stepped back, shaking his head. Not funny, he muttered, half to the building, half to himself. He walked faster, sweeping his light down the hall. Nothing there but rows of cubicles, paper dust, and the stale smell of printer ink. Then his flashlight beam caught something on the glass wall of the corner office, a handprint, fresh, oily, as if pressed by real skin. And the palm was blackened, like it had been burned. Back in the lobby, Sam tried to distract himself by writing a report, but the pen wouldn't stop trembling in his hand. Every time he looked at the basement feed, that same figure was there. Not moving, not fully visible, but definitely there. Sometimes closer to the camera, sometimes gone entirely. At 3:11 a.m., the building's automatic HVAC kicked on. Air whooshed through the vents, and with it came the unmistakable sound of breathing long, hollow like lungs pulling air after drowning. Sam stood on his chair and unscrewed the nearest vent grill, thinking maybe some raccoon had gotten in. He shined his flashlight inside. Dust, wires, nothing else. He was about to screw it back on when something exhaled directly into his face, a burst of cold air that smelled like wet metal and smoke. He stumbled back, coughing. The vent whispered again. Shouldn't have come down there, Sam. He turned every monitor to full brightness, but one screen kept dimming. Cam 12, basement corridor. The image was warped, grainy, like static smeared with movement. Something was written on the wall there now. He could just make out the letters, jagged and black. Help us. Sam reached for his phone. No signal. He grabbed the building landline. No tone. Then the emergency phone on the desk rang. Not the regular line, the old beige rotary phone mounted for internal calls. It's the one that hadn't worked since the renovation. It rang once, twice, 3 times.
He picked it up.
He picked it up. Wilcox Security, he said, trying to sound steady. Silence, then static, then a voice that made his spine turn to ice.
We're still down here, Sam.
We're still down here, Sam. The voice was followed by a sound like metal scraping concrete. On the monitor, something shifted in the dark hallway, a figure crawling into view. Its arms were too long, dragging. The shape moved closer until the screen went completely black. Then the system rebooted. All feeds offline. Every light in the building blinked out except one. The stairwell emergency bulb flickering red. Sam grabbed his flashlight, heart pounding hard enough to feel in his teeth. He didn't want to go back down there, but he had to check the breaker. It was his job. And jobs like this one didn't forgive panic. He made it to the basement stairs and paused. The air smelled the same as before, cold, metallic, ancient. Each step echoed as he descended, flashlight beam trembling against the concrete. The hallway stretched ahead like a tunnel into some forgotten time. When he reached the spot where the glowing barrel had been, he stopped. The barrel was gone. But on the floor, smeared in black soot, were dozens of handprints. Leading toward the far door marked mechanical access. And from behind that door came a sound.
Steady.
Humming, almost like people singing through clenched teeth. He turned the handle. It resisted at first, then gave way with a rusty groan.
Inside, his light caught a circle of burn marks on the floor, and in the center, the old rotary phone that had just called him.
Inside, his light caught a circle of burn marks on the floor. In the center, the old rotary phone that had just called him. It was sitting there, connected to nothing, receiver off the hook. Then it rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Sam didn't want to answer, but his hand lifted on its own. He brought the receiver to his ear, and for a moment, thought he heard breathing. Dozens of overlapping breaths, in and out, in and out. Then a voice different this time, soft, feminine. We tried to get out, but the fire kept coming. Sam's hand shook. Who is this? The elevator brought us back. Don't let it bring you too. The line went dead. He stood in that concrete room, frozen, phone still pressed to his ear. When a loud metallic clang echoed from the stairwell, footsteps, heavy ones, descending. Someone else was in the building, and they were coming down fast. Footsteps were heavy, deliberate, echoing off the stairwell's metal spine. Sam killed his flashlight and pressed himself against the cold wall, breathing shallow. The sound drew closer, boots on concrete, slow, patient, then silence. He waited, counted to 5, to 10. When he finally dared to look, there was no one there, only the faint flicker of the emergency light above the stairs. But something else caught his eye. On the wall beside the door, written in fresh soot, was a single word: run. Sam turned toward the exit, but the air itself felt thicker now, every breath harder to take. The emergency bulb overhead pulsed like a dying heartbeat. As he started down the hall, his flashlight beam swept across the floor and froze. The handprints. There were more of them now. Hundreds of black prints smeared across the walls, the ceiling, the doors, all fresh, dripping like wet tar, and they were moving. He watched in disbelief as one of the prints slid slowly down the wall, leaving a streak of black residue behind, as if an invisible hand was pressing from the other side. His pulse hammered. He ran. He reached the elevator lobby, desperate for light, for noise, for anything human. The stairwell door was still open behind him, and for a moment he thought he saw a shadow step through, tall, hunched, its arms too long for its frame. The elevator doors opened before he even pressed the button. Inside stood a man, or maybe late 50s, in a soot-stained uniform with a badge that looked decades old. His face was half-shadowed, but Sam could see the burn scars crawling up his neck like melted wax. The man nodded toward him. "You shouldn't be here." Sam stumbled back, shaking his head. Who are you?" The man smiled, or tried to. The skin on his cheek cracked, revealing red underneath. "Maintenance," he said. "We kept the lights on." He stepped out of the elevator, boots leaving black footprints that hissed faintly where they touched the tile. When the fire came, the power failed. We were down here when it hit. He looked up, eyes gleaming like hot coals. We never left. Then, as Sam watched, the man's body darkened, edges blurring, his shape breaking apart into drifting soot and smoke. The smell of burned fabric filled the air.
The elevator doors shut by themselves, cutting off the last of the smoke.
The elevator doors shut by themselves, cutting off the last of the smoke. When Sam hit the button again, the panel showed no response. Hour gone.